Hi guys, welcome back to Let's Talk with Brian and Tiya. I'm going to say shout out to my mom for getting us these really cute coasters.
Shout out Debbie.
These are so cute. So I was excited. You guys can't see them that well on the table, but they're cute. So I wanted to show y'all.
Absolutely. So this week's topic, we're going to go into gender roles. Gender roles are one of those things that, are defined in some relationships. Some relationships try not to put the roles onto the relationships, but it kind of ends up happening anyway. Do you think that we should define our relationships by gender roles? Seeing that, some relationships don't have a man and a woman. Some have a woman and woman, man and man. But do you think we should define them?
Not in 2021. I almost said 2020, but not in 2021. I think we are well past that as human beings. And I think that we should really just focus on what works best for our relationship. And I know I keep saying that episode after episode, but I really, really stand by that. And I think it's super true. I think sometimes we end up falling into gender roles sometimes, like just kind of like as a natural thing, but definitely not.
Define them. I agree with you. I would say for the most part, like you mentioned, we end up falling into the roles or falling into some type of role. So I think defining them happens sometimes when we're not even thinking about it. So if you're not consciously ensuring that it doesn't happen, it ends up happening and you got to revisit it. So should we do it? Probably not. Does it happen? I think it does happen a lot of the times in relationships. I'm more curious as to how they define them in relationships that aren't, quote unquote, monogamous woman relationships. You know what I'm saying? So when you start having different types of relationships, then what do you do with those gender roles? That's what I'm more curious about.
Me too. If anyone out there that feels comfortable and that maybe in a non-traditional relationship, what is a non-traditional relationship these days, but anyone that's maybe not in the relationship that maybe we don't see every day and people have a lot of questions in it, or the unconventional relationship. Right. If you guys want to reach out to us and maybe educate us on how you move about your day-to-day, please feel free to.
Absolutely.
We would love that.
I'd love to know that. So with that being said, as far as us falling into those roles, I think a lot of the times we fall into them because it's society, right?
Yeah.
So as a man, growing up, I feel like there's certain things I feel like I had to do because I was a man, right? Like you make sure you get a job and you take care of your family and you go out and work. And then if we talk about the generation before us, a lot of the times the man worked and the woman didn't for a long time, right? Like, so was that something that they did because it worked, or did it because that was just what was going on at the time? I never necessarily felt like I had to do it that way. There are times where I did want you to be at the house with the kids because I felt like the kids would benefit from it. But I think a lot of the times we do what society makes us feel like is the thing to do, especially when it comes to our gender, and not even just in the role in the house, but just what we're supposed to do as a gender.
Right. I definitely agree, but I also think that there are certain things that are innately inside of us as genders as well too. So as much as, we don't want to get trapped in the what we should do role, I also think some things just come quite naturally to men and naturally to women for us to do. And I think that's just the reality of things. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean a woman can't take on the role of going to work and the dad can't stay at home. I just think in certain situations, I think we fall back into those things because in some instances, not all, we just feel more natural in those roles as humans, as mammals.
With that being said, no, I agree. What are the society or stigmas around the gender role of a woman that you feel like you've gotten captured in
as far as like I feel
like you feel like I only did this because like moving about in society, this felt like the right thing to do as a woman versus something that I didn't necessarily want to do. Do you think that happened for you?
I can't pinpoint a time that I actually consciously, I can't think of a time that I actually felt that way. Well, I would say this. Sometime as a mom, I struggle with moving myself into my career because I feel that like underlying guilt of leaving my babies. I don't think that is necessarily based off of society telling me I have to be at home with my children, but just this natural guilt in me to where it's like now that I'm moving into a space where I'm working more and I'm spending more time away from the home, I quite naturally just feel more guilty for it. And I always wondered if you felt that way. I mean, I know sometimes like you just always wanted to be around your kids more because you as you stated before in the video with your father not being present and things like that. But I always wonder, like, that's like a really big struggle of mine. Like, I almost feel really, really bad when I'm away for too long, or I find myself like getting too into my career. I find myself feeling really guilty about that. So that's like one thing I'm probably struggle with, just being a mom and wanting to venture out into a new career and things like that.
Yeah, I would say mine is career based too, in the sense that feeling that, and you mentioned that innate feeling to go out and provide monetarily, and is that my role or my job solely, or do we share that role as two partners in the household?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't think we've ever had that conversation straight up, like, hey, are you gonna work and I'm gonna work and we're gonna build this, or is it just, we kind of go about it based on what the circumstances call for? Because we've had times where you've worked and I was at home.
Right.
And I've worked and you've been at home. You know what I mean? But we've kind of done it just based on circumstances and what felt right. And that felt more fluid versus setting an actual guideline as to, Brian, you're going to go work and I'll stay home and just make sure, I cook and clean and make sure I take care of the kids.
Well, I think it's more natural for us because I don't really have that I don't have that struggle, that issue with you. You know what I mean? Like you've always naturally, like when you were home, it wasn't because you were just home. You were home because you had a plan in place, and that was the best plan for me to work and for you to be building your business. So honestly, I don't think it's been a big struggle in our relationship because I think that it's not something that either one of us took advantage of. We definitely was fluid in it, but you were always like, I mean, even if it wasn't consciously, but subconsciously, like I am a man that needs to provide, if not for my family, at least for myself. Like I'm gonna go out there and get it anyway. Absolutely. So like you had that mindset. So when I am at home, I trust that you're out there doing it. So what do you think about, I know we're talking about gender roles, but I think sometimes this can be a tricky conversation because there are some men out there who would say like, I want my wife to bring, or my girlfriend to bring half of it to the table, but they also are kind of like, for lack of a better word, moochers in a sense.
I mean, in my personal opinion, I think that's whack, but that's me. I don't, that's where we get into this idea of gender roles. Is that not okay for a man to be supported by a woman because the role of a man is not to do that? Or is the role of him to be a provider, and so the woman should not be a provider and him be at home? That's a tough question. And I think if we're saying they shouldn't be defined, then we can't say that there's something necessarily wrong with that. Would I do that? Absolutely not. Because I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm not comfortable just being at home, not going after things that I have and goals that I had set in front of me. But there may be a man out there that say, yo, I don't have no goals. There's nothing I want to do. I want to be at home and I want to take care of my kids. Do we look at him different because he wants to? That's a question for you as a woman. How would you feel?
This is really tough, and I don't want to be in the hot seat on this one. Seat. So I mean, honestly,
look, you don't have to answer for anyone else. How would you feel if that was me? If I felt like I was the man that wanted to just be at home taking care of the kids?
I don't know.
It's a good thing it ain't me, boy. Because Tiya looked like she'd be out.
I don't know. I don't know I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough question because, again, it sounds unconventional and unconforming because that's not what we are used to seeing probably in our households, in our communities.
But you know what? Honestly, I feel like if there is a man out there and there is a woman that is the breadwinner, and there is a man who truly like is comfortable staying home to support his wife while she goes after her career, I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. Right. Because I mean, even in the space that I'm in, obviously, if it was different and I was doing what I was doing today a few years ago, maybe it would have been okay. But I also think that it just depends on what comes with you, because it's also the headache. Like I don't know. Like as long as it's like if everything, all the other boxes was checked, then maybe I can roll with that.
Right, and like you said, it's really about what both people are bringing to the table in a sense, right? So if that is what he's bringing to the table, there should be places and opportunities for him to make sure that house is well taken care of.
Yeah.
Kids are being well taken care of.
She's well taken care of when she gets home from work. And
there has to be some balance if that's going to be the case. In both scenarios. I'm not saying just if the man was staying at home. I'm not saying in both scenarios. But again, it really boils down to communicating what you're going to get from each other and what you're going to give to each other. Because
true. And
you can't spring it on the person.
Right. You absolutely can't.
Right. So I can't say, I'm working a job, you working a job, and I keep all my money to myself and I don't help out with anything else. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not really balanced. And so it has to be balanced in all things.
Right.
If you are going to go that route of defining the gender role, so to speak.
I think it just has to be clear communication on what roles whoever plays in the relationship. So if you are the person that wants to go out and someone wants to stay home for the kids, then do that. If you guys both want to work and then you guys want to get, collective, childcare or whatever, I think that should just be something that's clearly communicated so that, we don't have to question what role is what role in a relationship.
Right. And so would you say you and I have defined our roles in our relationship at any point in time in our relationship?
I wouldn't say we define them. I mean, I know that there was a point in our relationship where you were, very vocal about me, wanting me to be able to stay home with the kids and you wanting to be able to provide that for me and be able to say, hey, I want you to be able to do this so that you can spend the time. I can work. You don't have to worry about that. Have that stress of having to go to work and having to, So I think that's something that I appreciate because I value those years that I've was able to stay home with my kids. But outside of that, I don't think we set stone because I think it was. I always say unspoken. I know this is something that we've been talking about all week, but that unspoken, kind of like falling into those roles. Like I just take care of the home. And so I just do things for the home and you go out and you make, the money to provide the life for us and for me and the kids. So I don't think it's defined. I think it's constantly shifting though. Yeah. I think it's shifting many of times in our relationship. Like you said, when you were home and then I was at work and now I feel like even though I'm home now, I'm trying to launch my own career and you having to be supportive of that. So I think now finding that balance because as I'm picking up here now, we're talking about soon to be 2 working parents. Right. So now that's another stage we'll have to kind of conquer because for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been, home.
Right. Yeah. And I think even when I thought about the idea of, okay, I just want to work and you be at home, I never asked or even considered what you wanted to do outside of that, right? Like it was just like, all right, I have this set in my mind. I want Tiya to be at home with the kids, but I never for once thought like, what if she wants to work? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In whatever capacity that is, at the time it probably would have been a 9 to 5, but I never thought like, does she want to work? You know what I mean? Yeah. And for me, having to draw back and actually consider, well, what does Tiya want from this? Like and we kind of talked about it in past episodes, you starting to try to get away from that role of wife, mom, and simply being defined as that. Yeah. Versus being multifaceted and being able to just jump in whatever role is needed at the time.
Yeah.
Which I think, you've done a great job of transitioning into.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. So I appreciate you guys coming and being with us for episode 4. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please continue to watch, like, and subscribe. We will be back asking questions for our next week's episode. So look forward and stay tuned to that. Thank you guys.